Hello everyone. Welcome to the Career Core session with SFU Blueprint. SFU Blueprint is a student-led organization that provides technical consulting to nonprofit organizations. And today we're having SFU Blueprint members, Johnson and Terry, for the software engineer co-op panel. Yep. And thank you for coming today. And I'm the host today. My name is Hanako, and I'm the VP Comms at SFU Blueprint. All right, let's start with the introduction. So we have Terry and Johnson. So please introduce yourself with your academic background and your work. And we have a fun icebreaker question. So the question is, what's your go-to snacks during your work? So please answer that as well. Yeah, maybe you can start.
Okay.
I'm just gonna with this.
Sure.
I
will go first. Hi guys. I'm Terry. I'm currently in my third year in computer science here in SFU, and currently I am the VP internal here at SFU Blueprint. And for the past year, I've also volunteered as a developer for the Pedals project, and currently I'm working as an agile developer intern at SAP. And for this go-to snack, I think for me, it's gonna be the fresh fruit in the office because they often refill their fruit, like for example, mandarin, pear, and apple, like every Monday, and I think it's Tuesday and Thursday. Yeah, those are pretty good just for refreshing.
Awesome.
Okay.
My name is Johnson. I'm a fifth year at SFU, studying computer science and minoring in philosophy. I'm currently a tech lead on the Real Youth project here at SFU Blueprint, and currently co-oping as a software developer intern at HP. And my go-to stack in the office is probably just like chips, Doritos. Probably that, yeah.
All right, thanks for the introduction. Since you guys mentioned that you're on currently a co-op right now, so what motivated you to apply for internship this year?
Yeah, I think I can answer this first because actually my last semester is actually my first semester applying for a co-op. So for me, I'm early, as I mentioned earlier, I'm in my third year, and we all know that we're gonna look for jobs after we graduate. So for me, I know I'm sort of late to the game, so I just scramble and apply a lot of different companies, starting last September, semester in, I think that was in January, and I got the offer in around April. Yeah. How about you, Johnson?
I kind of apply year round. So I usually rotate between co-ops and academic semesters. So when I'm on co-op, I'm not applying. But when I'm back in classes, I always try to apply for co-ops for the next term. And if I get it, I get it. If I don't, then I'll take classes again.
Okay.
I applied this one actually I applied pretty late in because I just came from another co-op. But there weren't a lot of courses in the summer, so I was looking. I was like, oh, I might as well find another co-op. So in the last few weeks of the spring semester, I looked for a summer co-op, and that's how I ended up here. There's not a lot of summer courses at SFU, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. For Johnson, maybe you mentioned that you had multiple co-ops before. So how has your application strategy changed since your first internship?
I feel like as you get more experience, you kind of have more lines on your resume dedicated to your previous co-ops. So a lot of the projects that I used to have on my resume and extra stuff, I kind of have to remove or decrease the amount of lines that I dedicate towards it. So I think my application strategy has mainly stayed similar, but one thing I did change is I used to apply on the last day for on My Experience, for example. It shows you how many days left until the application closes, and I used to always apply on the last day because I would be I'll just apply when the application is down because they'll see my application the soonest. But recently, or not recently, but I've later learned that a lot of the hiring managers at my co-ops actually look for the applications before they actually set the deadline, and a lot of them send out rolling interviews. So that definitely my strategy has changed for applying as early as possible. Because if you apply on the last day, they might already have people shortlisted. Just because they don't have the application down doesn't mean like they haven't already like sent out interview invites, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes sense. But do you like usually apply on like few days after the application has opened, or like when do you usually start applying?
Yeah, usually I try to apply once when the application opens. Um, yeah, usually like the day after. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah, you usually want to do as soon as possible. At least I guess it depends on like my experience or on LinkedIn. You want to apply as soon as possible. Like either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good to know. All right. The next question I have is, what's one thing that you do differently now when looking for a role? So if you look for another co-op or a new job even, what do you do different?
You go.
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
You can go first. I need to pick up my answer.
I'm sure. Okay, I think for me, because currently I'm working on the front end side of the SAP Analytics Cloud product. So for me, maybe I'm looking for different kind of experience as well. Maybe a little bit on backend or maybe DevOps. But I think that also depends on what kind of interviews I'll be getting. So yeah, I think that would be sort of the things that I'll be looking forward in the future. For now. How about you, Johnson?
Sorry, what's the question again?
When you apply for another co-op or you got job, do
Mm.
you do something differently or do you do the same?
I think I definitely try to apply to. Oh, well, sometimes what I do is I try to like change the keywords on my resume to match the ones in the job description. I don't change it like super heavily, but like sometimes like if the role is looking for someone who has experience doing like I'm on the platform team for HP right now, and a lot of my work at my previous co-op was at Motorola, and my team wasn't actually like a platform team, but because I saw this role was like platform related, I kind of like changed the resume title to like be like software engineer and then comma and I put platform, so like they see on the resume that you did platform work at that co-op, even though like the role itself it's not officially like software engineer like platform. That's not the role title, but uh you want to like try to hit as many like keywords as you can, and that's a good way to put it, because at least for this like not that many people are usually modifying their resume. They kind of just like send their pre-made resume, which makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great advice. I never heard of it, but I think that would be helpful for many people. Yeah, thanks for the answer. Next question is something that we got from the audience. So, what's the most helpful advice someone gave you when applying for your position or your previous positions? Terry, do you want to go
I
first?
think yeah, I could just speak a little bit on this because I think Johnson covered a lot of good points already. Like, most obviously you're gonna apply early because I think there's a lot of qualified candidates on the market right now. Because when you're talking about, for example, right now I'm working at SAP, and for example, my front end job they're looking for people with React and JavaScript experience, and I think at least like more like around like 50% of the CS student here actually knows like how it works in some sense. So I think the earlier you apply, the higher the chance that your resume actually got picked up by the by the recruiters, and by then you're getting your interviews earlier, and then by then you have a higher chance of actually getting the offer in that case. And I think that pretty much sums it up, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say one thing that I kind of learned along the way as I applied to more roles is that the hiring manager is looking for something really specific. They're looking for hiring not someone who's like kind of good at everything. Unless you're applying to Amazon, then they kind of look for a very general like candidate. But a lot of co-ops are looking for a very specific person that's good at the specific tech stack that they outline in the job description. So if you match the job description, that's you'll pass like the first initial like filter. But if you don't have the keywords in that job description, it doesn't matter how much experience you had or like how good you are, like you're very likely not gonna get like an interview. So like if you really want that job that you're applying to, then make sure you hit the keywords on that job description. Whether that's like swapping out projects so you can hit those keywords, or yeah, that's the main way to be honest, like switching out projects.
Yeah, awesome. All right. The next question is there anything that you're looking for or avoid when you're looking for a job posting?
Yeah, I think like this is a pretty interesting question. For things I would avoid. Honestly, for me, because back then I was looking for my first co-op, so I was just applying to anything like smaller company, big company, front end role, back end role, DevOps, so any role. But for specifically like what kind of things I look for, and just like what Johnson said, I think like your fit to the role is very important as well. Because I think for the past interviews that I had, like for the past semester, I sort of seeing why like I may be getting those interviews because I got sort of hit the keywords. For example, for SAP, like I was putting a lot of like React and JavaScript on my resume. So I think yeah, that's what they're looking for. And I also interviewed for a DevOps role, and at that time they actually asked me about my experience at managing AWS EC2 instances and also setting up a CI/CD pipeline stuff. So I do think that like just like what Johnson said, modifying your resume, tweaking it a little bit for different roles would be a very good thing to do. And yeah, would be you're gonna check out the job description and then applying for the appropriate role would be the best strategy, honestly.
Yeah, so the question was like what's a red flags kind of like for job positions?
Yeah, or what you look for when you're like applying for positions. So like any like project that you looked for, or was there any like specific area that you look for when you were applying for positions?
I guess for me, when I'm looking for a position, I see what position like I can utilize that's kind of like related to my past experience, because those are the ones most of the time I could maybe get an interview for, or like a higher chance getting an interview for. And I usually look for like larger tech companies. That's just kind of like what I've done throughout my entire co-op career. Is like I started at like a startup as my first co-op. It was like a really small company with like 10 people in the company, and then I slowly like joined larger tech companies as I gained more experience. Became more confident as an engineer. So I'm always looking for like the next big company. That's kind of like my thing. Like other people might not want to do that. Like they might enjoy like the startup life, or they might like government, or like something a bit like in the public sector. It just like definitely depends on like preference. But when I'm looking for a company, I definitely look for something that is like a tech focused company. That their product is like tech, because they tend to have like very strong engineering culture at those companies, and you learn like a lot because everyone is just like so passionate about tech. Everyone's like just talking about tech all the time, so like just being around like that environment really helps you learn, especially as a co-op. That's kind of what I look for. It's like tech companies and like bigger names, I guess. Yeah.
Did you have anything to avoid though?
Avoid unpaid internships. I guess those aren't really common. But I don't know. I've seen like people online sometimes talk about it. Like they'll pay you in like it's like usually startups that don't have the funding yet, and they would like pay you in like the future. But a lot of startups kind of go under, and there's no like guarantee that you ever get paid. I know right now it's like, you need experience, but if you're going to spend like 40 hours a week on like this thing, it's better for you just like spend it on like a personal project.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Avoid unpaid internships. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thanks for the answer. So for the next question, so like you guys like talked about how you apply for positions. So what was the hardest part of the application process for you? What did you struggle the most?
I think for me, because I said like I don't want to review it again, but like it's my first semester finding for co-op, and I think consistency is actually one of the things that I struggle with. Like, because for me, whenever I open an application, I often feel like I'm so underqualified, And then I was like, oh, maybe I'll just do it tomorrow or something like that. But you're gonna realize that the HR are gonna review the resume on a rolling basis. And the thing is that it's not sometimes not even about your skills. It's like about like how early you apply, and then you're getting with the interview. So I think those would be like important things that you gotta think about. And the other thing is that throughout the whole like co-op searching process, you're gonna get prepared on your technical and also your behavioral. And behavioral, you're gonna prep on there's some questions about your resume and also your past experience as well. And for technical, you're gonna grind LeetCode as well. And I think like the thing is that throughout the season, you're gonna have multiple interviews like spread out. Like for example, one coming up next week or like one coming up next month. You're never gonna know. Like, and the best thing that you can do is to try to do consistent work every day and try to stay sharp on all of these kind of things. Just to try to get a better edge when you're doing the interview, whenever you're getting it. And I think that's the thing that I struggled the most in the past semester, honestly.
Yeah, I like to agree there with like consistency, specifically with like LeetCode, because a lot of like as I mentioned, I like to target like larger tech companies, and as you get into like larger tech companies, LeetCode is becomes more and more important because their processes are very standardized, so they're basically like pulling LeetCodes like guaranteed in your interviews. So you have to be good at those, but you can't be good at LeetCode overnight. You have to like slowly build that intuition and slowly practice. So that's one mistake I made. Like sometimes I still sometimes make in my seeking seasons is just not preparing LeetCode consistently. And it's not even like if it was easy to do, a lot of people would be doing it, but it's hard. Like it's so hard to be consistent with LeetCode because it's like not really what you do on your day to day. So you're not like super motivated to like study it, and it's like hard. Like LeetCode is like harder than it's a different way of thinking. So I still struggle. Like I mean, even after doing like a ton of co-op terms, like I still struggle a lot with LeetCode, just because I don't do it often enough. But if I would give like any advice to people is to like start LeetCoding like as early as you can. Like make sure you can go through like there's like a list called like the
75?
Yeah, Blind 75,
Blind 75.
or LeetCode 150. If you can go through Blind 75, I think for co-ops you'd be pretty ready. You want to be like ready for like large tech companies, you can go through like LeetCode 150, but I think Blind 75 is more than good enough. That's more than what most people would go through. And if you can go through all those questions, not even like the really advanced topics, but just like arrays, sliding window, and like 2-pointers, like those topics, those are, if you can be really good at those questions, you'll hit like 90% of like interview problems.
Yeah, honestly, like I got one thing to add on, like based on what Johnson said. I think like for interviewing with company, sort of like I think like if you pay for like I'm not paid by them, but just saying like if you are interviewing with big company, for example Amazon or like, other big companies, you can actually have a dedicated like catalog of questions they usually ask by them. So it's pretty good that you actually go through those questions and you got a pretty high chance of like. Not a very high chance, but like I say it's 50% of getting those questions on your interview. That will have you actually being well prepared. And on top of that, I also agree on like how he's feeling about like the prepping stuff. Because for me, when I was seeking, I was also like doing school stuff. And I think like in the past season for him, he was also doing co-op as well. You're gonna think about you're gonna go to work 9 every day and then come back home like commuting, and it's gonna be pretty late, right? And you're gonna LeetCode at that time after all the dev work on the day. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard, but you're gonna stay consistent. That's the key.
Yeah, staying consistent. I think that's a great answer. And I think, yeah, that would be helpful for many people as well. So thanks for sharing your LeetCode routine. Moving on to questions about running. Oh, sorry. Questions about your current work. So what does a typical day look like for you? Who do you want to start?
I can start off first. Yeah, sure. For me, every day, I would just start off by just reading some updates about my Jira tickets, because like sometimes when you make a Jira ticket, sometimes people will get updates for you. For example, someone push a fix, and they're gonna review it, seeing if you're gonna do the validation later on today, and I'll do the reviewing stuff in the morning, and then after that. At least for my team, we're gonna do a stand up at around like 10:30 a.m. and we talk about we go over the Jira board. So we talk about is there any major customer tickets that we're getting, and also after that we're gonna go over individual updates. We're gonna talk about just pretty standard stuff. Honestly, I think Johnson like HP and Motorola are doing this kind of stuff as well. Just talk about what they have done in the past yesterday and like what are some blockers and also what they're gonna achieve today. those kind of stuff. It's pretty standard. And for the rest of the day, it's going to be, for me as a co-op, it's going to be doing some manual testing for the front-end feature because I'm working on the front-end, and maybe writing integration tests, and also doing some research on some new features that my team is working on. Yeah.
Yeah. So my day, I usually like go to office. Yeah, I live close by to my office, so it's not too bad of a commute. I usually get there around like 9:15 or something, 9:20,
Okay.
and then I start. We don't have stand up in my team, so I just like start working on my tickets. For this internship, I mainly got put on like my own project, to make like an internal tool. It's more like security, vulnerability, like scanning based stuff. So I kind of make my own tickets for that project. So like there's always kind of work to do because like if I run out of work, I just make a ticket. I keep making more tickets for myself. So I kind of just like left to my own devices. And then 2 days a week we do have like stand up, like Terry mentioned. We talk about like what we did in like the past few days and what we want to do for like the next few days. And yeah, it's pretty standard. Yeah, most of the days I don't have too many meetings. But if I do have meetings, it'll mainly be with my mentor, who kind of like makes sure I'm on the right track for the project, and I make sure like I'll finish it on time. And yeah, I do mainly like full stack work, like which is really funny because the position actually was like a DevOps position, but I ended up doing more full stack stuff, which is kind of funny. So sometimes the job description would be like kind of off from like the work you actually do. But yeah, it completely depends on like what they have for you that semester.
You guys briefly mentioned what your projects are, but do you guys want to expand more on what you are working on as far as you can share?
Yeah, I think I will try my best to explain what I'm doing without violating the NDA. So as I mentioned earlier, for our team, we're working on the front end of the SAP Analytics Cloud product. So for our team, we own several like data analyzing features, and we sort of look like, for example, like the dialogue, how it's gonna style, and also a little bit on the front end logic, how you sort of filter the stuff kind of thing. And yeah, those kind of stuff, that's usually what we're working on. And sometimes we also pick up new features. And yeah, that's part of what I'm doing right now as well, doing research about new topics and then giving like information and then writing wikis for the full-timers as well.
Yeah, so for my project, it was security scanning. So like at HP, we're trying to like kind of push for more compliance with getting security things patched sooner rather than later. So like basically, we have a lot of scans that happen, a lot of reports that are being generated, but no one's really looking at the reports. So my project is basically like making a central portal for developers and management to kind of log into and view all the reports from the different types of scans, and then having like a bird's eye view of like what repositories in the organization are like vulnerable and which ones need to be patched. And then there's some automation that like immediately like creates Jira tickets for vulnerabilities on the correct like team's dashboard. That way it creates like just some automation to make sure like these vulnerabilities like get fixed. It's basically like the Dependabot for GitHub. If you work with GitHub, you've probably seen of like Dependabot sometimes does things like that, but it's at like kind of a larger scale across like more scans and more of like a more like a central location to like see all the details about that.
Awesome. So this is maybe for Johnson, but you mentioned that you were looking for something relevant to your previous role when you're looking for another role. So was the responsibility kind of like similar to your previous experiences, or what's different?
It was pretty similar because at my previous role at Motorola, I was on like the tools team, and I worked on internal tools for other teams in Motorola, and it was similar because I worked on one of the projects I worked on at Motorola was also like a compliance tool. It was integrated into the CI/CD pipeline to kind of show like provenance. It's for provenance reporting, which is basically like the history of like all the commits across like the different microservices and kind of like aggregating it so you can like see in a release like what commits were in that release, and then you can compare different releases, and that way like it was supposed to be used for like tracking what commits went into a release, but also like comparing releases so you can like the another team, which is like the escalation team, can use it to debug and see like what changed, what could have possibly like broke between like different different releases of the product. And it was like kind of compliance related and more like supply chain stuff. So like I remember in my HP interview they really liked that because this current project that I was put on was also like compliance based and like supply chain based. Because like in the security scanning, you're looking at the commits and like what changed in the commits and what introduces vulnerabilities. So there's a sense of like supply chain, and it's like security. So like security is all about supply chain and like what goes into your code, and making sure like it's not vulnerable. So they asked me a lot about that in the interview, and yeah, I think that what was low key like got me the offer, to be honest. Like just having that experience and having that like very niche kind of experience in my last co-op, which not a lot of people would have like kind of worked on, that helped me stand out. And because it was like a tools team that worked on internal tools, and this is also like an internal tool, there's like some relationship there.
Awesome. Are you guys able to share what tools or languages that you're using at your work?
I mean, yeah, sure. For me, as I mentioned earlier, I'm working on the front end side of things, so mostly gonna be JavaScript and also TypeScript. And I think for just tracking the issues, pretty standard should be like Jira for most company, right? Like you guys also using Jira. And yeah, and also like using Slack for daily communications and Teams for meetings. Like like booking the time slot on the calendar, the Teams calendar stuff. Yeah, that's sort of what the tools that we use every day. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, I use Teams as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I use like the tech stack and stuff, or like
Yeah.
So like this, I was able to choose the tech stack. So I chose like React and TypeScript for the front end, and for the back end, I chose Nest.js, which is it's like Express, so it's like JavaScript based, but it's more structured and more opinionated. It follows more like the model view controller architecture. And I think one of the requirements for the backend was actually to make sure it is like JavaScript based, because the current product at HP is JavaScript. It's like Node microservices. So yeah, that was a requirement. And I'm using a lot of AWS stuff for the cloud, like S3, DynamoDB, and Secret Manager and stuff like that. And yeah, some Docker and Kubernetes. But a lot of that stuff is already like done for you. Like in HP, like they kind of package all the like deployment stuff, and they have that all like kind of done for you. So like you can just use their templates and it will like do everything for you basically. So you just have to focus on like the product, which is I think is like really cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think you can go. Like.
Oh, I was just say like one big thing at this company is like they like dog fooding. So like basically what that means is like you use the product in your actual company. So like at HP we have the HP Anywhere product, which is basically like RDP. It's like remoting into PCs and like cloud workstations. So like I use their product a lot because you kind of have to. But it's it's a good product.
Yeah, I think like when I'm answering the question, I sort of like doesn't get the main point, like because I think it was on the test stack, right? Not the general stack we're using daily, right? To add on that, I think like for on top of like JavaScript, we're using React as well. That's pretty standard. And for testing, we have like Jasmine tests and also Jest for front end. Yeah, integration test stuff usually because we work on the front end stuff, so not too much like unit tests, kind of thing going on.
Awesome. Was it hard to adopt to those like tech stack or tools that you're using at your work?
want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, for me it wasn't too bad because I get to choose the stack, so I just chose the stack that I was most confident in, which was React and TypeScript. Which like what Terry said, it's like a pretty common tech stack, especially for the front end. Yeah, so it wasn't too bad to kind of ramp up to the tech stack. I found what was actually hard was like working with the pre-made templates they had. Like I mentioned like previously, a lot of like the infrastructure stuff is kind of done for you, so you can focus on like the product development. But like figuring out what is like valid, like they give you the CI/CD templates, and you kind of like figure out what are valid parameters and arguments to those templates, and sometimes they don't match the documentation, so there's like some friction there. So I found like that was a big step of like that was a big learning curve for me. I find like learning all the internal like ways of doing things.
Yeah, I think Johnson said a really good point about like the internal way of doing things. Because for me, as I mentioned earlier, the company uses React, and for my Petals project and Blueprint, and also for the Blueprint website, we also using React and TypeScript and JavaScript as well. So I think I do have some experience with those. But I feel like working in a legacy and also company scale like code base is very different. Because for example, let's say you're making a commit, you're gonna think about is it following the team standard or is it following the component standard? Like, because you got different repos as well sometimes. And sometimes when you're making changes, you're going to communicate with your teammate as well. For example, they're also making some changes on that specific component. Is your change going to step on their changes? Or like, how are you going to coordinate that? Like, is there going to be like any regression caused by your change or by their changes? You're going to think about those kind of things as well. And I think on top of that, it's not just about like tech stuff for me, because I was in my first co-op, and I think I sort of get exposed to like a lot of team communication stuff. For example, as I mentioned, a lot of my time actually spent on like Jira. For example, writing Jira tickets for the team to fix, for them to sort of record the bug and for them to fix. And I sort of understand like, you're gonna think about things in their shoes. Like for example, when you look at a bug, you're gonna think about like how do you describe it in a clean and also understandable way, because a lot of the time the senior on the team, they're working on different stuff, and you're gonna make them understand the context as soon as possible when they're looking at the ticket, right? And I think that's a really, really important point that I learned from like the writing Jira tickets, like doing my work as well, and also reading the Jira tickets and also attempting some fix as well. And I think the other thing is that will be like just workplace communication in general. Like for example, writing like emails and also like Slack, like because I think. Because for me, I'm actually from Hong Kong, so I think we actually got like different workplace communication culture, and I think people here actually respect a lot of like their personal boundaries. They're like no Slack message after like 6 p.m. or something like that, right? I do, unless you're working on some very, very critical stuff or you're senior on the team, things like that wouldn't happen, at least for co-op here. And I think that I sort of learn about it like throughout like these 2 months. Like slowly, you're gonna observe how people do it, and then you're gonna learn it slowly. Pick it up.
Did you say you have to write the email?
Email a little bit, but honestly not too much. Mostly like just writing Jira tickets, like gonna make the perfect Jira ticket. Just make it easier for people to fix it and review it, honestly.
Nice. So I have my own question to you guys. So do you guys use AI at work?
Okay, that's a pretty spicy question. I think for AI, there are different ways to think about it. Just if you're just talking about vibe coding, I don't think our company actually allows vibe coding. Like we do have like sort of Copilot, enterprise version, but I think most of the employee in our company is not using it because the code base is just too huge. And if you want to do a context rich search or context rich, just sort of asking the AI to do some coding work for you, unless you're very determined on what exactly you'll be executing, how you can execute it, I wouldn't let AI to do it for me, honestly. But like on top of that, we also have like enterprise AI chatbot. So like it's not internal AI. They got like GPT-4, those kind of stuff. But it's sort of like all the information is keep on the cloud and it's not exposed to the AI providers kind of thing. Yeah.
I see for me it's actually kind of funny because HP actually like pushes AI quite a bit onto the developers. Like every 2 weeks we have like a show and tell thing where like some devs come in with a presentation about what did you do with Claude? Oh, I did this with Claude. It 20 minutes with this amount of tokens. I made this project, and I used test different models. So they're really into AI. That being said, we do also have Copilot, but like Terry mentioned, I would be like very wary about if like what it's actually like outputting, because it can be wrong, and it's really nice to just be like accept. But a lot of the times it can cause like insidious issues and like mountains of tech debt that you have to like go back and like fix. So I definitely like I wouldn't like not use it. I wouldn't not use AI, especially now, because a lot of like times management expects developer productivity to be way higher nowadays because of AI, and they expect you to kind of use it, at least at like my company. But so if you don't use it, you kind of like fall behind in developer productivity. But definitely like keep in mind of like how it can be wrong. Like the other day, I was like asking it to like make some style changes, and it put like the style changes in my TypeScript file. It was like putting CSS, like not even inline CSS. It just putting like straight up CSS class definitions in my TypeScript file, and I was like, what the hell? So you got to be like really wary about like what it does, because it can just do like really random stuff.
Like, I just got something to add on. I feel like for me, AI use is actually not very, I don't know, for me it's not very technical. For me is a lot of time I actually use a lot of it for actually reading documentations, honestly. Because for me, I was looking at some new features right now. How are we gonna implement it? And a lot of the times there's a lot of like legacy documentation. It's like 10 years ago, and I think is that there's no one on the team that actually knows what's going on there. So sometimes you can just like paste it into like the company internal AI and then ask them to like explain it in a nice way for me, kind of thing. That sort of works pretty well for me, at least. And I think the other thing is that also for me, I think my communication is not that good sometimes. So I sometimes use it to refining my Slack messages, or like refining the Jira ticket a little bit, just to make it a little bit more a little bit more easy to understand, and maybe ask it to like, oh, is there any like something? Like, is there any lack of context when I'm creating this Jira ticket, kind of thing? Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that was all the questions I had about your work right now. And we got some questions from the chat as well. Thank you for asking a lot of great questions in the chat. And I will start with a question about application. So how can I tailor my resume for different industries if I don't have much experiences there? Do you guys have any thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I guess I can try to answer that. So you really have to in resumes, you want to try to like stand out. Like you don't need to stand out from having like the same tech stack, but if you did like volunteer experience that's not even like coding related to that industry, that can also help you stand out. Yeah, that's one way to stand out if you don't have too much experience. Yeah, otherwise, another really good way to stand out is through networking, knowing people, or just reaching out to people on LinkedIn. And that's one thing that is kind of scary, is reaching out to people on LinkedIn, because it's like a judgment factor, and like cringe. It's so cringe, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I try to like think of it like this, like that if you don't ask, then it's always a no. So like you always want to like reach out and then ask like for coffee chats if you can, or just like about that position, because especially if you're an SFU student, like SFU students want to help out SFU students. Like at least for me, like would love to help out like fellow like students or my friends or anyone really that I know and have a personal connection to, or have any connection to succeed in the industry. So don't be like afraid of reaching out to people on LinkedIn to learn more about their experience in that position, and then then they might be able to like put a good word in for you, or might be able to push your resume. That will also help you stand out. I think that's probably like a really, I wouldn't say like underrated, but it's something that not a lot of people do, I find.
Yeah, I think like for me, like, because Johnson just talked about like asking for coffee chat on LinkedIn. Honestly, I actually got a pretty interesting, pretty like I don't know, like cool like personal story that I want to share. Because I think during my last applying season, which is like spring 2025, last semester, actually at some point in the middle of the semester, I was like, I'm not getting interviews. Maybe I should actually try DMing people on LinkedIn. That's also like I sort of stepped out of the comfort zone from there, and I started DMing random people on LinkedIn, like maybe the managers, or not even the managers. Sometimes there's sometimes a PM, and then like other people as well. And I think from there, I actually like agree with what Johnson said. Like, if you don't ask, there's certainly nothing, like 0% chance.
Yep, exactly.
But if you ask it, maybe there's 1% or who knows, like 50% or something like that.
Mhm.
But for me, I think like the callback rate wasn't that good. But honestly, I actually did a coffee chat with one of the employees that for the companies that I applied for it. And I feel like for that conversation, although I didn't get like an interview with the job ultimately, but I feel like I actually learned a lot from their daily work and also understanding like what kind of talent and also what kind of people, like what kind of co-op will actually stand out, like during if they actually got on the job. So I think that's a really important point as well. If you like, yeah, you maybe like for coffee chat, don't think about it in a very transactional way. It's not only I come over here, I just asking referrals. That's not how that works. Like you sort of like have to try to build some like personal connections with them, talking about things you're passionate about or maybe things that you're passionate about, and then you try to build things up from there. And the thing is that a lot of times the results aren't what you expected. It could be in a bad way, which is maybe could be like me, I didn't get the interview. Or maybe something good, like maybe another company, they're referring you to like their friend and then they work in some other better company. Who knows? So I think, yeah, you gotta just try it, step out of your comfort zone. And that's what I want to give the biggest advice, honestly.
Also, I totally forgot to mention this, but also another way to like stand out is through clubs, like Blueprint or like other tech clubs. Like Surge is another one too, and Blueprint. These are all good tech clubs to be involved in. Even like the student society, like computer science student society, is really good to get involved in. They have like tech committee or something. They have different teams that organize events. They have like events committee and like they have like I know software systems has like a web committee and like merge committee and stuff. There's a lot of ways to get involved in like the tech community, and then just knowing more people and like doing good work around them. Like even if it's not coding work, if they know that you're a reliable person, you have good soft skills, like people are much more willing to like put a good word in for you.
Awesome. Yeah. Johnson sort of like mentioned like how to stand out, but do you have any comments, Terry?
Like I think, yeah, honestly, just deep like I don't want to say it in that way. Just do like maybe like people, but just to try to do things that people may consider like cringe or like a little bit crazy. Honestly, like maybe like lacing up your LinkedIn, you can make it look good. Taking a new LinkedIn photo. I think it's more of a mental game. Honestly, you gotta think in that way because a lot of times it's not about like how you act, like how technical or like how cracked you are. It's more about like how you handling the interview. Are you let's say you're sort of like very low confident. You don't think I'm not getting interviews, and one day you're getting one. Like, how are you gonna get prepared for it if you're always in the loser mindset, right? It's sort of thing like that. If you sort of frame it in a better way, you're gonna think about I'm gonna work on it every single day. I know I'm getting better. I'm not the best, but I know I'm getting better, and that's sort of how you sort of gain confidence over the time, and sort of how you stand out in interview as well. Honestly.
Nice. And I wanted to circle back to the topic about coffee chat as well. I personally really learned a lot from coffee chat as well. But like Terry mentioned, it's really hard to avoid making it transactional. So like, how did you prepare for coffee chats?
Okay. I think I could try answering that. I don't think I did too many coffee chat. Maybe you can answer on that as well. But anyway, for me, I think that the most important thing is just try to understand like what their company is doing. Because I think at that coffee shop, I actually talk about what kind of product they're working on, and then what are the potential competitors to their like businesses kind of stuff. And I think the employees, like that employee that I'm talking to, is actually pretty impressed about like me knowing that. Yeah, just knowing like a little bit in depth about their business. And the other thing would be like just learning about the role that you apply into as well. Because maybe let's say you guys are actually talking about the roles you actually apply to. And I think the best way you show that you actually have the technical like competency to actually have them giving let's say a soft referral or like a hard referral is that you actually show like obviously your passion about the role, and also you show your technical knowledge. For example, like you're gonna prep someone like here's some you're not gonna bring out your resume, right? You're gonna talk about here are some things that I did previously, and I think that they look kind of similar. Like how are they gonna be different in the company sale kind of thing. You're gonna ask them like good questions, and also like just gonna use your curiosity and ask them questions about like how they're running like the code base, and also the technical side, how they work day to day. Those would be some pretty good questions to ask, honestly. Will you have anything to add? Like it sounds like you did a lot like coffee chat back then. I'm just curious.
I didn't prepare. I didn't prepare anything for this question, but I think one thing I really like to do is to have like 5 minutes or 10 minutes of icebreaker. I really like introducing myself in the depths, like maybe like bring some fun facts and like ask about them as well. I think it really helped me to like break the ice actually in the beginning of the call. So like we like I really had like really good conversation after that. So I think that's my favorite thing to do. But what about you, Johnson?
I'd say I haven't really done that many coffee chats myself, but I've been on the receiving end. I've done like people have asked me for coffee chats, and I've done it for them. Uh, and I feel like just like showing actual interest for like the role and showing like why you would be a good fit. Like in the message you send them, also like mention, oh, I've done this experience and it's similar to this job posting. And then I'd be more likely to like do a coffee chat or like continue with the conversation because I know like you actually want the position. But if it just seems like you sent like a copy and pasted kind of message to everybody, it's like generic, then it would definitely like lower your chances in getting like a response.
Awesome. And I think job application process is are really hard experiences for everyone, and we got more questions about job search. So what's the most important thing that you've learned from your job searching process or what was your key takeaway other than what you mentioned?
You got this.
Yeah, okay. Honestly, I just talk about like consistency. I think that's actually my major takeaway. But I'm gonna talk about the second one. Is actually your confidence and how you present yourself. Because as I mentioned earlier, yeah, the market is saturated. There's a lot of like very competent people that can take your job like anytime. They can actually do your job if you think about it. But the difference is that like you're gonna like how you communicate your strengths. Like for example, we're talking about your resume points. I just kind of talk about, oh, I just made a React app for like someone's business or something like that. I gotta talk about, oh, the impact that I actually created, and it's sort of in the way that you present it that tells the interviewer how like I think there's a couple ways to think about it. How like sort of how confident you are, and also like how mentally strong you are in the job later on. That's maybe that could be there's something they're looking for interviews like for the job maybe. And the other thing is that, as I mentioned earlier, for the confidence stuff, I think the other way you think about it is also on your resume. And like, for example, like as I mentioned earlier, when you're talking about your resume points in interview, don't want to undertalk yourself, right? You don't want to talk about, oh, I just made a random React app. So like, I think on the resume, you're gonna also think about like what kind of impact that you want to make. Because a lot of the times, if you actually think about it, there's also sort of minor points. For example, for one of my I think for the Blueprint project, we actually did some very specific stuff about like CI/CD pipeline as well. And I think that is actually sort of the skills that companies also looking for aside from like generic JavaScript and also React experience. And I think that sort of adds onto the whole candidate profile when they are searching through all these resumes here, just talking about React, JavaScript free, vanilla generic stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo what Terry mentioned about confidence. Yeah, you like when you. I'm gonna talk more about like after you get the interview. Like when you get the interview, usually someone like a human person has looked at your application and saw that there is something in your resume that fits the job description. You just kind of need to figure out like what that is. And sometimes it's really obvious, like, oh, tech stack. It's like the same tech stack, and you want to like kind of double down on that in the actual interview to show that you are a really strong candidate for that position. And just like just for that type of point with like confidence, it's also like how you portray yourself in the interview. You definitely you don't want to like fake confidence, but you want to be yourself, of course. I guess like you want to be like confidently yourself in a way, like try to be authentic, and it's okay to say like you don't know something to like an answer, and usually it's really easy to tell if someone is kind of like doesn't really know like what the answer to something is. So if you're not really sure of like an answer for a technical question, it's okay. It's definitely like okay to like say you're not sure, but you're not sure, but you would or like you ask them. You can actually turn it back to them. You can like, oh, I'm interested. Like, what is that? What is that actually? And then you can actually do that, and then it shows that you're actually interested in like learning.
Awesome. So we'll be going back to the list of the questions that we had already, but thank you for leaving your comments in YouTube Live. And please, if you have any questions, please feel free to post there. And also, we got a comment saying thank you for advertising CSSs. And yeah, I think they're great and having like, lots of interesting events. So yeah, thanks for that as well. Okay, moving back to question about your future plan. So what are you learning about yourself through these experiences, and is there anything that has changed through your co-op experiences? It could be anything, I think.
I've kind of done a bit of everything through my co-ops, like a bit of front end, a bit of back end, a bit of like DevOps, a bit of cloud stuff, and I'm trying to like narrow down my scope a lot more in these last few experiences I've had. I definitely feel like I've leaned more towards like a DevOps side of things, because my experiences, I have a lot of experience in those things, but also like I feel like the work is pretty interesting, and yeah, it's kind of niche in the way where like a lot of people are really good at like the front end and back end stuff. You still do a lot of that like at my current co-op, for example. But like this like extra like DevOps stuff and this like platform work is not something that's directly taught in like school. So you can kind of stand out just by being like good at those niche topics. So that's what I'm trying to like do now, is trying to figure out what that niche topic is I want to specialize in so I can stand out. And yeah, it's looking more and more like DevOps and like platform work. And platform is like, for people who don't know, it's like it's internal. It's basically like internal tooling, internal like building internal tools for other developers. Like sometimes you hear it as like developer experience teams or like developer infrastructure, developer productivity, like all that stuff. Like that is like all under platform. And it's kind of like where DevOps is going. Like it used to be DevOps, more like culture word, and now it's like kind of manifesting towards an actual like commonly used word, which is like platform now. So if you hear like platform, it's not like an actual like product. Like usually when you're on a platform team, you're not actually doing like product development. You're usually doing like more DevOps, but more like internal tooling for the other teams, infrastructure, setting up like reusable infrastructure for other teams, and more like cloud work. So that is definitely something that you can like specialize in. It's what I'm trying to specialize in. But yeah, like trying to figure out what I want to do in the future to kind of like help me stand out, for sure. Yeah, because like they're using the job positions, they're looking for something very specific, so it's good to like specialize in something. At least in my experience.
Okay, that was a really good answer, and I'm just kind of sorry. Like, Hinako, if you could please like repeat the question. I saw lots of context. I kind of understand what Johnson tried to say just now.
Yeah, no problem. So, what were you learning about yourself through this experience? Yeah, and how did your like idea change with your co-op experiences?
Honestly, I don't have a lot of stuff to comment on, like, because I'm just 2 months into my like first co-op. But honestly, I feel like there may be two things. The first thing is that like I feel like I would sort of enjoy a very good a company with good engineering culture, because I think like for SAP, they're sort of, I think they're actually we can call it sort of like a SaaS company, SaaS business, and I think there's a lot of like good practices in terms of like how you manage different merge conflict, and also how you manage different like release kind of stuff. And I think I actually enjoy like the amount of dedication they put in, like for example, like reviewing your code, having it properly reviewed and also properly commented, and understanding how we actually structure the components properly. Those kinds of I really appreciate that, and I think that's sort of like what I guess like software company different from like regular other company. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that I think it's sort of my company kind of thing. Because for my company, they have a lot of like intern activities. For example, it's kind of fun, honestly. Maybe you guys heard about it. Like, we do like, for example, we got intern lunches where a lot of interns just have lunch together on like Tuesday, like Wednesday and Thursday. Also, like we do have like volleyball, playing volleyball on the beach. Near the near Sandsworth somewhere there, pretty good. And yeah, just meeting new people. And I think like from this experience here, honestly I feel like I think previously I was sort of like sometimes I think like I'm actually quite introverted, but I sometimes like I sort of reflecting on my two past months here at SAP, and I think about maybe I'm not too introverted. I guess I'm just the way I sort of frame it is that I'm just interested in other people. Like when they talk about their niche, for example, the things they're working on, like the projects they're working on, and maybe just talking about like the different people. Like for example, in school, we just talk to other students, right? And the mix for students is actually a lot of the times the things are pretty popular, like pretty common, like Reels. I don't like Reels gaming, League. You play League, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's fast. Yeah, but I think like actually working in a company give you a lot of chances to talking to a lot of different kind of people. And I think, I do learn a lot from their career, whether their career or like just their life lessons as well. That's sort of what I feel like, honestly.
Nice. Yeah, regarding co-op activities, we also got a question about if co-ops do really play ping pong during work. But is that actually true?
I guess I actually got a pretty fun story about this because when I actually received the offer, I actually did a very kind of fun thing is that I actually walk around the office, like do an outside tour, and I sort of peek inside. I was like, there's table tennis, like ping pong table inside. I bet I'll be playing ping pong every single day. And it's gonna be so fun. I was thinking like that, but I was actually wrong. Like for us, I think we don't use it that often because I think right now people are just busy, honestly. Like the full timer people working on their stuff, and then for interns, they got their own life as well, like outside work. Because I think what sort of like the people in the 20, like the 80, like from the 18 like to 90, I think they sort of think about, I'm gonna have a life outside work as well. And I think a lot of the time they just spend like maybe spending time with their families or just spending time with their other friends outside work, those kind of stuff. So like the ping pong table wouldn't be too crowded like after work. Yeah, but I did try it. It's pretty good, honestly. Pretty good.
Yeah, we definitely play ping pong.
Okay.
Yeah, we play during work hours. I wouldn't say how long, but we definitely do play.
Okay.
It's a nice break from work. It's really funny how consistent ping pong is at tech companies. It seems like all the tech companies have a ping pong table. It's really, really interesting. And they buy it from like the same manufacturer or something.
Okay.
It's really funny.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds really like really fun to work at office, but how do you like about working from home if you have experiences?
I guess I could go first. I don't like working for me is not. I don't like. I don't have a very very technical setup. You know, the 4K monitors. The Hammer Mueller chairs. The kind of stuff. I don't have those. It's just a pretty simple setup. And sometimes I just actually go to school for work. So maybe you'll bump into me in the library. But anyway, I feel like I don't like working from home is a very interesting experience because for me, at least in Hong Kong, a lot of the companies are actually going for a return to office, like for a lot of industry, even for software. And yeah, it's actually kind of cool that people actually, for example, for my company, they're doing like 2 days working from home every week. So it's actually pretty cool. And it's just good that you don't have to do the commute after work and before going to work. Honestly, that's pretty good. Like, because the commute is going to be 1 hour for me. I'm not sure about you guys, but I feel like maybe it's kind of long for you guys as well, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like with working from home, it's definitely good for like saving time on that commute. The only thing about working from home for me is that I tend to like work past 5 because when you're in office, when other people are leaving, there's like a physical cue that it's your time to go. Are you coming? Are you going? Hurry up, let's go. But like when you're at home, there's no one pushing you to like leave. And not because not because I have more work to do after 5, but just because like you actually kind of like lose track of time at home. It's a lot more easy to lose track of time at home because there's no one like physically like mentioning to you or anything that what time it is. So it's easy to lose track. And then oh, it's like 4:30, and oh, I said I was gonna finish this ticket. So then, okay, I'm gonna stay a bit later to like finish this ticket. But this tends to not happen during work hours in like office for me, because like there's like physical cues. People are gonna come up to you and be like, hey man, like let's go home. It's 5. So you can't really do that. And also like the time tends to at least for me, like I tend to be a bit more wary of like the time when I'm in office compared to like when I'm at home.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. So we got a question from the YouTube chat as well. It's a question from Bean, our friend Bean. Hello. Okay. So can you describe a recent problem that you might have encountered while working for your co-op? And how did you break the question down and step by steps that you solve and overcome the problem?
I'm thinking of an answer.
I think I'll just give a pretty simple one without breaking the NDA, I guess. So yeah, for me, I was do some like general test refactoring, and that test is actually written like 10 years ago. So no one has touched it over the 10 years, and there's no like documentation, no description, no comment. I was like, okay, I'm gonna work on this, and I sort of have a soft deadline for this. I think that was sort of the first deadline work, like work that have actually deadlines that I sort of like got assigned to for my co-op. And the way I sort of take it through is that, first of all, like try to understand like the test. Like, cause for us, we sort of having some like the way we sort of work for the integration test is that we sort of have a Canva running on the Jasmine kind of thing, and we do some automation click, and then we check for the widgets on the Canva kind of thing, like for the dashboard. And then so what I do is that I inspect those JSON files for the Canva and try to understand like what are the configs for those story files, and try to understand what exactly they're testing on, comparing different files. And I think I got a pretty good like understanding from there. And then I sort of also talk to the other people working on the same task, like on the similar task, because we also got like different tests we were refactoring. And yeah, I think because people there, like you gotta remember, you are just co-op here. You like for me, I was just 1 month in, and I don't understand like a lot about the code base, and I understand the features that the team owns. And the best is actually asking the other intern, or maybe asking the full timers on your team as well. That's actually the best way if you actually want some like pretty accurate answers, honestly. And after talking with them, you're gonna like when you're talking with them, you better also prepare a little bit. Like you're gonna talk about, oh, here are some findings that I find, and maybe here are some questions that I sort of have, and maybe I need some clarification from you as well. And I sort of present it in a pretty clear way to my senior. And I think I got some pretty good feedback from him. I continue working on that, and also constantly maybe they're giving us mini update like 2 days, like keep making sure that I'm not having any major blockers. And from that's sort of like the first big technical problem that I deal with during my co-op, I'll say.
Yeah, this problem I'm still facing. So right now, like one issue like I'm still facing, I haven't solved it, but making progress, is like getting access to S3 from my deployed environment. So like it works locally, but not in the deployed environment. And basically, how I kind of like looked into solving this is by looking at the permissions in S3. So like how it works is uses like IAM policies, and in the local environment, you use a different account and you use a different role that has a different role, and assumes a different account that uses a different role, and that one might have actual like the right policy assigned to it that gives it access to like that bucket. But in the deployed environment, it actually assumes like a totally different account and a different role, and you got to make sure that account and role has access to that same bucket. But the issue I'm running into is that deployed environment, it uses a account and role that I don't have access to. Like I can't change the policies to. So my issue is like figuring out how to change, give it that role when I can't log in and do that. So like basically I've just been asking around, asking a lot of chats like, who do I ask for this? Like who actually owns this account? Like how do I do this? So that's like one big takeaway that I kind of would like I would say solves a lot of problems. Is like Terry kind of mentioned it too, is just asking around in the company, because a lot of people would have worked on like that code base before and have probably ran into that issue before, so they might be able to give you like insights. And also, yeah, basically that. Like people have worked on similar things and have run into similar issues. So that's what I'm trying to solve right now, just picking people's brains. And usually they most of the time they definitely want to help you, because people want to like unblock you, especially if you're a co-op. They kind of want you to ask questions if you're a co-op.
Awesome. Yeah, I also really think asking questions are very important. So yeah, I agree with that. All right. Okay, we're moving on to our favorite topic about SFU Blueprint. So you both have been in SFU Blueprint for a while. So how did being part of SFU Blueprint prepare you for your co-ops?
Yeah, I think I could go first because I feel like it's actually a very big contributor to how I sort of get quickly adapted to like my current work environment. So for me, I just got a little bit of context that for Blueprint, I was working on the Blueprint website and also the Petals project where we're creating a React web app for bike nonprofit here in Vancouver. And for those stuff, like for those work, we also we have a team consisting of PMs, designers, and also devs. And we also have like senior dev, tech lead, and also the junior dev, and I was the junior dev. And yeah, we also using like the very standard like tools that we're using like GitHub and also Figma. And from there, I think honestly, when I'm going to work, like when I like first week into work, I sort of understand like the context kind of, I guess kind of quickly, honestly, because maybe a little bit better than like people who are like unprepared or people who haven't worked on like front end stuff before. Because when I go over like the GitHub, I sort of know like, or I understand like how the commit and all the stuff work, the branching strategies, those kinds of those are pretty important software engineering principles, honestly. And also like how do you communicate with people from different discipline. For example, let's say you're communicating with a designer, and they're also always talking about the Figma, right? The Figma, you're gonna follow the Figma, and then maybe let's say you got some like questions about the Figma. How are you gonna ask them? Like how are you gonna present in a way that they could understand like what's your problem about their design? Like, is there any problem in implementing their design, or is there any like let's say maybe some drawback in their design from the user like perspective when you're using testing on the software as well? And I think those experiences actually help me sort of quickly pick up like the testing routine in SAP, and also understanding how we work with like different teams, like the UI UX team, and also working with the quality lead of my team as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I started it like I joined Blueprint pretty later into my co-op like searching season. So I think like a big like a benefit that I guess I've seen is just like coding more. So like the thing about coding is like you have to like do it more to get better at it. Like that's something that I didn't do. Like I didn't do a lot of coding in my free time. So I think being a part of like a project kind of gets you more disciplined about coding more in your free time and having more like structured tickets to work on and more like an actual like end user, which helps motivate you to continue working on a project. Because that's an issue with a lot of like personal projects is like lack of like a user and like also just not being motivated because of that to finish the project. So it kind of just got me motivated to like finish the project end to end. And because I was kind of like the lead for the project, I had a lot of like say on like the stack and more like experience talking with the client. So that is like something is like a good skill to have in like the work environment, because you have to like talk to your to clients. In this case, it'd be like internal users at the company. And no matter what like software engineering job you have in like the future, you always have to like talk to people and try to explain requirements and like explain what's doable and not. And a lot of the time you're talking with like non-technical people, which happens to be like the MPO people most of the time. And you just have to like explain it in a way that makes sense for them, without omitting too much like nuance to that. So I think that's like a good skill that I've been working on and kind of like improved on.
Nice. Do you want to explain what project that you worked on at SFU Blueprint as well?
Oh yeah, I was on the Real Youth project with Hanako. Yay! Yeah, we're making a website. Yeah, we're making like a website for them, like overhauling their old website and like making a new one for them. And one of the like big requirements was kind of like making it so they can maintain it after we hand it off to them. So it was like um, we're using like a content more like backend, more like a headless CMS approach, which is kind of like newer to me. Um, but yeah, like trying to like build something that's like scalable and like something that could be handed off to the user. And they can like add like one of the requirements is like adding new films and adding new programs and them not having to touch the code. So you have to like set up webhooks and figure out ways to like rebuild the website and like also make it good for SEO as well. That was another requirement. So we use like static site generation for the website. So that's like yeah, a lot of like small like requirements that you kind of have to like think about.
Yeah, maybe just adding to them from PM or product perspective. I think SFU Blueprint's most biggest advantage is that they have clients, actual clients, and they're a nonprofit organization. So there are some requirements like, the budget needs to be like this, and the user flow needs to be very friendly for non-technical people. So I think it's very valuable in any fields like product managers, developer, and designers. So, and SFU Blueprint is also hiring for new project for fall. So if you're interested, please apply and please stay tuned in our Instagram, Discord, and LinkedIn so that you get the information as soon as possible. Yeah, and moving back to the questions. Maybe we can go back to the questions on YouTube comment as well. We've got one specific question. How did you practice on your AWS skills and EC2 instance? Is that a thing? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's a thing.
Like, I think a pretty like the most basic way is just, let's say you create like your own personal project. It's a web app built on React and or maybe some like backend service, maybe Express, or like maybe I don't know, something else like Node or like Java, maybe Spring. I don't know. I'm not sure. What you could do is that you could try to deploy them. Like you're gonna learn a lot in the process. You're gonna learn about how do you deal with like course error, like what is actually course error, those kind of stuff, and understanding how will be like configs for the network and also the security. How do you make sure that your endpoints are actually secured? Those kind of stuff. Those are really important as well. And I think and also like watching like sometimes like watching videos like just explaining the high level like view of like how AWS sort of work. That's sort of actually a pretty good starter material as well. Like before you're actually hopping in and then following tutorials, or you just go over to AWS and dashboard and then do these steps. I think having a higher overview would be very important as well. Yeah.
Oh, it's also for me.
I mean, you talk about AWS,
Yeah,
right?
but honestly, I didn't really touch AWS before my co-op. It was kind of just like I had experience in Azure, and then I think the cloud thing was kind of like a backdrop type of thing. Like they weren't too concerned about not having too much AWS experience. So yeah, no, not really. Didn't really practice too much. But I heard there was certifications, so
Oh, the practitioner.
the cloud practitioner. I heard those are pretty good.
Nice. And also you guys mentioned that SFU Blueprint's projects are helpful for you as experiences, but are there any specific experiences or project that helped you in your co-op?
Honestly, for me, I think Blueprint is sort of a very good stepping stone for me to start from, because I can sort of like get a little bit of background for me, because for me, I was just applying when I was applying to Blueprint for that role. Like my resume is actually nothing there. I'm not kidding. Like at that time, I was like non-technical. Like I don't have like my personal website. I don't have any like good projects. It's just me talking about volunteering for some nonprofits in Hong Kong kind of stuff. And I think like working like volunteering at Blueprint and getting used to like the suite, like how the software engineering, like the routine and also the different practices sort of helped me sort of boost into other opportunities as well. Like for example, like I think for my 276 class, which is the software engineering class, I was actually taking it in SWE, and yeah, I think at that time they were actually collaborating with Recline, which is sort of like what Blueprint does, right? And from there, I think our team, I sort of feel like we sort of have enough experience for that because we all have these similar things before, in some sense, and we sort of like and those experience actually gave us a lot of like boost into like technical way, like how we sort of set up the project and how we sort of handle like technical like bugs. That's the first thing. And the other thing is also dealing with talking to the client as well, because for the cross project we're also doing a weekly update with the client, and we're gonna do showcase and understanding their business requirement as well. And I think like Blueprint has gave me a really good exposures on these different aspects of like software engineering. And yeah, I think it's sort of, for me, it was like a key to open up a lot of different like technical or maybe let's say non-technical opportunity as well, honestly.
I think when I first started looking for co-ops, what really helped me was hackathons. So I did like there's like two big ones. Like there's NW hacks at UBC, and then there's Storm hacks at SFU. So those are like the big ones that you should definitely get involved in. So like I talked about those projects that I made in those hackathons in my first co-ops, and they really helped. Especially like because you work in a team, there's like a very clear like end goal with like the project. Usually you're building a project to solve a certain problem that's based on the themes that they give you, and there's a chance of winning awards, which is really good to mention as well. And usually, it's like team based, which is good. You can talk about your team dynamics, and there's a lot of like soft skills and hard skills that you can kind of like extract from those experiences. So yeah, I talked a lot about those, which really helped. And then later on, I started talking more about what I did in my co-ops. I found like as you get more experience in like co-ops, you start talking more about like what you did in like the previous co-ops in your interviews, because usually like it's the first thing that they see in your resume, and they are most of the time they're most interested in what you did in your last co-op. Because when I was at doing the interview for HP, they also asked like 90% of the questions on what I did on Motorola, and they didn't even touch my other co-ops. Like they didn't ask a single question. I don't even think they looked at those positions. So like for the first co-op, do hackathons, and yeah, get involved in the community. And then after that, like still do those things, but also like in the interview itself, they would talk more about like what you did in your co-ops.
Nice. Is there any tips for people who are looking for their first co-ops? Maybe from Terry.
Honestly, I feel like so I sort of have a point that I sort of mentioned earlier. I just sort of covered it, but I didn't talk about it very detailedly. It's about like the preparedness kind of thing. Because as we mentioned earlier, you're never like 100% prepared for your interview, right? Like, or let's say your resume is never gonna be perfect. It's never gonna be like 100% interview conversion rate, right? And I think for me, it was just sort of understanding how the game is played. You sort of like just apply. Honestly, you just apply whenever you see the job posting, and just have your resume ready, have all your stuff sort of ready, but like in an okay state, and you apply. And throughout the process, you are gonna also working on like the different versions for different job description, or maybe just revising your resume as well, doing A/B testing. Those will be pretty useful as well. But yeah, I think it's just sort of like a click moment in your brain. It's sort of like acknowledging that things are never going to be perfect. Like, resume is never going to be perfect, and the application is right there. It's going to close, and you're just going to apply. That's what you're going to do, and you're going to pray. This sort of like the mindset that I had when I was applying for my first call, honestly.
Awesome. Yeah, that I totally agree with that. And also, did you find your co-ops through SFU or by yourself? And do you think it matters?
I think for me, I'm not very sure, because like I think I got some interviews from some companies. One of them I definitely only see their posting on like SFU co-op, but like the other ones, I think they also have their job posting on their company website. For example, SAP, and I think having co-op offers like maybe there's some jobs where, for example, if you're looking for your first co-op and you're applying you want to increase like your chances of getting any job, then like co-op offers would be a pretty maybe a pretty good option for you. But like for someone like Johnson, like who's like got so many experience working at big tech, but like no way, like you can just apply like at their company website directly. A lot of the time, honestly, their Workday or like their own website, and you just apply.
Yeah, I'd say for like the first few, I for the first few co-ops for sure, like through my experience, because some companies, especially like the smaller ones, don't post their postings outside of my experience, so you kind of like, or they don't post it on LinkedIn and other places, so you kind of have to like look in like my experience for those postings. I'd say like uh um yeah, also like the way people get the way that from the employer's standpoint, like how they see the applications is kind of like different because some, like in my experience, if they do post it there and they don't have like a link to Workday from my experience, they usually check my experience for sure. And then other platforms they might not check. But if they use Workday, then they'll check that. But the thing with my experience is that from the management perspective, like from the person hiring or the hiring manager perspective, when they see the applications, it's just one PDF. It's like a 500-page PDF with everyone's application appended to each other. So it's like so hard to like find people to interview. But like in other platforms like Workday and other things like that, it's a lot more like advanced. They have more like AI integration and stuff. So yeah, take that in any way. Like I don't know, I thought it was really interesting that I didn't know that either. But I was seeing like the hiring manager do that for my company, and they had like a 300-400 person doc of just like everyone's PDFs, and they go to each school. Like UBC has like a 500 page of like people's applications all appended together in one PDF. And then SFU has another 300. So like in my experience, it's kind of a bit. It could be a bit harder to sign out just because it's so hard to like parse through all those applications. But yeah. You don't need to like use my experience in like future co-ops, and I think they don't actually let you use it now if you have like more than 4 terms or something. Like, they implemented that recently, so you kind of have to use like external resources after that. But it's good. Like I think you should definitely use my experience for sure for applications. A lot of like companies, like a lot of times your first co-op isn't going to be at a big company. Like for me, it was just a startup. And they only post in co-op office. Like my first company that I worked at, it only posted in the co-op office. So I wouldn't have gotten it if it wasn't in that program. So like for your first co-op, you kind of have to, like you definitely should use my experience.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer. All right, that was all the questions I had for today. But is there any message that you guys want to share to someone who is going to get a software engineering co-op?
I think honestly for me it's just like be open to like new experience, honestly, because you never know like what like like different environment, like your work environment, like how's like what would there be like other interns, would there be like a lot of interns, like how's the full timer on the team gonna be, like how's the office gonna be. There's a lot of like possibilities, right? And I think like it's just open to like when it's like, for example, for me, I always join like the intern events and all that stuff. And I know a lot. Through there, I get to know a lot of different people from different areas in the company, and I feel like that was a really good decision that I made since I joined like Sawdust Co-op. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, kind of similar to Terry's point. Like be open to like new experiences, and also like for your first co-op or like second co-op or whatever, like sometimes you might not like the work you do, or you might not like the company culture, and that's kind of like what co-op is for, is learning like what you like and what you don't like, and trying to narrow down for like the full-time search. So like definitely like it's kind of what you make of it when you get into like a co-op. So make use of the experience, like get involved, talk to the other co-ops, um, go to the office sometimes to talk to other people. Don't just like stay at home if you can. Like yeah, definitely get involved because like also like talk to your managers and show that if you want to like looking for like a return offer, like mention it early rather than later. And yeah, that's what I'd say.
Great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And that wraps our first career course session, and we're planning to have more sessions for engineering and also for other positions in tech as well. So definitely please stay tuned in our social media. And again, we are hiring for UX UI designer or product designer right now. So please check if you're interested, and we will be having more dev positions upcoming as well. So thank you again, Johnson and Terry, for sharing your experiences today, and thank you everyone for coming to our session. Thank you all.
Thank you.